Global flood deniers, or as 2 Peter 3 puts it, the scoffers, assert that there is absolutely no evidence for a worldwide flood. This demonstrates just how willingly ignorant they are. The evidence is all around us. Before I get into some of this fascinating evidence for the Genesis flood, make sure to check out Biblical Creation Basics, Episode 1, the Genesis flood. In that episode, we discussed how sedimentary layers that extended across entire continents are testimony to Noah's flood. The cause of these sedimentary layers must be global in order to explain these incredibly massive layers extending entire continents. We also know that deep time cannot explain the existence of billions of fossils worldwide. No, a process best explains the existence of fossils. This is a catastrophic process that results in rapid burial. There are fossils of animals giving birth. There are fossils of fish being eaten. And we see massive dinosaur graveyards where we know this must have occurred quickly through catastrophic means. What about fossilized footprints? Fossilized footprints indicate that very little time has passed before the next layer was laid down in order to get the fossilized footprints to begin with. The evidence for the flood is amazing. Everywhere we look, there is abundant evidence from geology that the flood really did occur. Nothing in the fossils support deep time evolution and slow geological processes. What the fossil record supports is massive death and burial on a global scale. What else do we see around the world that corroborates the Genesis flood? We see rapid or no erosion between sedimentary layers. We see flat, featureless boundaries. We find whole rock layer sequences deposited rapidly in quick succession. The Bible tells us that at the beginning of the flood, all of the fountains of the great deep were broken forth. This is actually a major problem for local flood proponents and Bible compromisers. The deep, which is the Hebrew word tahom, connects back to creation. The creation event tells us that there was one ocean covering the whole world before the land was formed. Did the Bible only say that the fountains of the great deep broke forth? No. The Bible tells us that all the fountains of the great deep were broken up. This would suggest that most of the water of the flood came from below the earth's crust, in subterranean chambers circling the entire planet. Since the Bible clearly tells us that the fountains of the great deep broke open, we can then make testable predictions as a way to actually test whether this really did occur just thousands of years ago. These fountains erupted in such a way that the original crust of the earth, due to the tremendous force, would have been cracked or fractured like an eggshell. Do we find evidence for this? The answer is an astounding yes. We find exactly what would be expected with the Mid Oceanic Ridge. This is very well known in the Atlantic Ridge. If you follow this around the entire globe, much like a seam on a baseball, you find that this can best be explained by the original fracturing of the earth during the bursting of the fountains of the great deep. How about testable predictions? We know that the gold standard of science is to make testable and falsifiable predictions. Well, PhD flood geologists have done just this. In some of the global flood models, we have what is called runaway subduction. This is where one tectonic plate goes beneath the other. If this were done over millions of years, a subducted plate down under the earth would have warmed up to the surrounding mantle rock. Today, we observe snail-paced movements of the plates. The continents are moving very slowly, The catastrophic processes during the flood can explain what today's snail-paced geological movements cannot. At the time of the flood, we would have had meters per second movements of the plates through the flood waters. We would no longer be looking at continental drift. It would have been continental sprint. It turned out that a prediction based on many of these starting points was confirmed in the most amazing way. If this runaway subduction had only occurred just thousands of years ago during the flood, we should find evidence of this in the earth. And we have discovered this exact evidence. We have discovered huge slabs of cold rock at the base of the mantle, indicating that they had not yet had time to warm up to the surrounding materials. This is yet again huge confirmation of the Genesis flood. Remember, 2 Peter 3 tells us, knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lusts, and saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation. For this they willingly are ignorant of, that by the word of God the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the water and in the water, whereby the world that then was, being overflowed with water, perished. But the heavens and the earth, which are now, by the same word, are kept in store, reserved unto fire against the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men.
As a quick reminder to everyone, hit that like button. It actually does help. Team Standing for Truth is out.